Welcome to Trentendo. I am Trentendo. Today we're not playing Nintendo, but I am me, and we are we. And I'm not playing the Wii today, because the Wii doesn't play movies. I am awake at, just a couple of minutes before 7 on a day off. Why in the world would I ever do that? I must have something important to do. Well, I've decided that I'm coming up on almost a year of Trentendo, and I want to do something a little special, something a little different. Watch every single Tarantino movie back to back, aka... Now, I've done some similar things before. Those of you that know me from the podcasting days, you know that I used to be on a network called Behind the Cutting Edge, and we did a series of podcasts called Movies with Balls. These were, podcasts on movies that were very ballsy, kind of like 80s movies, or they didn't have to be 80s movies, but like action flicks that were just ballsy. A lot of action and just intense stuff in them. After a while of doing that, we decided we wanted to do a podcast on directors. We were going to try and do a few of them, but we only ever did one, called it Directors with Balls. And we did it about Tarantino movies. Every day I would get home from work and I would watch a Tarantino film. After a couple of weeks of this, we got together, and me and Mr. Bill, who used to podcast with, we did one of the best podcasts I think we've ever done. A little time later, I decided on a day off to do a Tarantino marathon. And since then, he's made 3 more movies. And they are the longest movies that he's made. I didn't really take that into consideration when I decided I was going to do this, and I told everybody I was going to do this. So we got True Romance at 2 hours and 1 minute. Reservoir Dogs at 1 hour 40 minutes. Pulp Fiction at 2 hours and 58 minutes. Jackie Brown, 2 hours 34 minutes. Kill Bill Volume 1's 1 hour and 52 minutes. Volume 2, 2 hours 18 minutes. Death Proof, 2 hours 7 minutes. Inglourious Bastards, 2 hours 33 minutes. Django Unchained, 2 hours 45 minutes. And Hateful 8 at 3 hours and 7 minutes. Jesus. So, hang on. Then we add, carry the 2, 23 hours and 55 minutes. Wait a minute, though. What about From Dusk Till Dawn? Is that a Tarantino film? I mean, he wrote it. He didn't direct it. But he didn't direct True Romance either. And I'm considering this a Tarantino movie. I think maybe I'm just considering True Romance because, I'm a movie nerd. And, I know that he actually wrote it. And not a lot of people know that. But I think a lot more people know that now. So I gotta include From Dusk Till Dawn. But if I include that, I kind of feel like it's a cop-out not to include Planet Terror. That was one movie at the theater. I bought a ticket for Grindhouse. I didn't buy a ticket for Planet Terror and then a ticket for, Death Proof. I mean, if I'm already going to do this, then I might as well add those other 2 films. And obviously I'm going to check out, his section of 4 Rooms. I'm going to check out, I'll watch his scene of Sin City. I love Sin City. But, we're talking about a lot of hours here. In fact, I guess it's okay. Let's get started. I'll keep a bit of a video record so that way we can kind of talk in between each film, and you can also watch me progress into a shell of a man. So anyway, I hope you enjoy. I'm going to start out with True Romance, and I'll catch back up with you in a minute. Oh, what a great way to start out a movie marathon. True Romance is such a delightful film to be about drugs and violence, and to have been directed by Tony Scott. It's interesting because it's like the least fever dreamish movie I think that he's made. I had forgotten how much this movie is just fun to watch. It's definitely a picture of its time. The film quality to it. It's got that smoky, like late 80s, early 90s kind of look to it, almost like a sitcom or something. Most people would really get a kick out of, having never seen True Romance, is just how many people are in this movie. It's staggering how many actors are in this movie, and that are now A actors, or even like B+ actors, maybe A- actors. Slater and Arquette being your main people. It's hilarious that the side parts are like Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper and Samuel L. Jackson and Gary Oldman. I don't think Gary Oldman's ever played a part like this before or since. It's crazy what he's doing. Brad Pitt is the like lazy roommate to Michael Rappaport, who's more of a character than Brad Pitt. It's bizarre. And like the great thing is like the two drug cops are Chris Penn and Tom Sizemore. Balky from freaking Perfect Strangers is in this movie. The only way that I knew about this movie when I did is because of Mr. Bill. This movie is kind of special to me because it was the first movie that I ever did a podcast on. Bill, had introduced me to podcasting in general, and he said, "Yo, we should do it on True Romance." And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know if I really want to do a podcast on a movie called True Romance. Like, I assumed it was a rom-com, or like a love drama, like a Before Sunset, or an After Sunset. Are there any other Sunset movies? Is there a During Sunset movie? I was really glad that he suggested it and that we podcasted on it, and I think it really comes out when we talked about it. I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe what I just watched. Originally, Tarantino had written one big long script, and the movie studio was like, okay, this is cool, but we need to break it in half. Sound familiar? And the second half went on to become Natural Born Killers, which is nuts. And I've heard that Tarantino wasn't a big fan of what Oliver Stone did with Natural Born Killers. You get every penny out of True Romance when you watch it. I definitely recommend pick it up if you are a Tarantino fan. I actually just got the Blu-ray, so I'm interested to see, what extras are in there. But I don't have time for that today. Before we move on to the next thing, I put it out on Facebook asking people's opinions, so I want to see what they had to say. So first I have to point out that my picture that I put up for the stack of Tarantino movies is that Sadie picked up that my Kill Bills are out of order. She's right. Thank you for catching that. I'll be hiring you for continuity from now on. Why couldn't you be here today? The post about True Romance itself. Pete from Leamington Spa says, one of my fave films, loads of quotable lines. Elvis steals it. Oh my god. And look out for star-studded cameos. Yeah, Elvis is... He has a mental projection of, this is Christian Slater, has a mental projection of Elvis as his mentor or his conscience, and I'm pretty sure it's Val Kilmer. Glenn says they got everything here from Diddle-Eyed Joe to Damned If I Know. Dave here says Gary Oldman, Christopher Walken, and James Gandolfini. What a trio of bad guys. James Gandolfini's in this freaking thing. Pete again says, will he see Brad Pitt, Val Kilmer, and Sam Jackson? And Sadie says, truly romantic. Definitely check it out, and I've got to get moving on because every moment that I'm not watching movies is another moment I won't be sleeping tomorrow. If you go from True Romance, you got to go right into Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs is a really interesting film. I feel like we're kind of at the doorstep, or we're dipping our toes into the waters of Tarantino. Pun unintended. I feel like this, we haven't got full-blown Tarantino yet. I feel like this is more of like a student film. And it is very obvious it's a first-time director, but it's one that's amazing. It's one that is a success. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And I think I only have the comparison because, I've seen the rest of the oeuvre that is, Tarantino's movies. Things I forgot, Stephen Wright being the DJ, throughout the movie. The awesome music is something I think everyone remembers. Everyone remembers Stuck in the Middle with You, but all the other music in it is just great delight. And we get a glimpse at something that Tarantino was going to do later on, dealing with Michael Madsen's character. And I'll bring that up shortly. Another thing of note, I went to watch my copy of the DVD, and it's one of these 2-disc, and I ended up watching the full screen one. There's a crack. There's this awful crack. There's a crack in my DVD of the widescreen, the one that has the special features on it. It's a sad day. This is why we can't have nice things. Before we move forward, I want to check out Facebook and see what's going on. So going back just a little bit to the initial post with a picture of everything, of all the movies, Josh says 4 Rooms is amazing. We might come to disagreements about that. A quarter of it is for sure amazing. Asking people about Reservoir Dogs. Glenn is saying one of my top 3 Tarantino films. I think a lot of people put her up at the top. Jill thinks that I have a lot of spare time on my hands, and she's absolutely right. Aaron says Stuck in the Middle with You will be stuck in your head. I was thinking about it before the movie even started, so I was pretty excited. And then Michael Madsen, his gruff, just, hey, does it still work? That and Michael Madsen's line, are you gonna keep barking, little doggy, is just Awesome. Sadie says, it is my favorite movie, period. She says she watched it 11 times in 1 week once. That might be a bigger endeavor than what I'm doing. That's awesome. Gary says, brutal, unlike his later movies, which revealed his more sensitive side. So let's move forward, and one that I almost watched the other day. I was so excited about doing this. I almost went ahead and put it in, but I was able to abstain until today, and that is the masterpiece Pulp Fiction. Ooh, Pulp Fiction. Oh my goodness. What a crazy, just crazy, crazy film. I mean, I guess that's the point of it with the title. Like Pulp Fiction, you know, stories that are crazier than crazy stories. But it does kind of have a consistent through line of people telling each other stories of things that happened while they're in the middle of these crazy stories that other people would tell that happened. Consistent with all of his other, you know, films, huge ensemble cast. And at this point, it wasn't a lot of unknowns. Bruce Willis was already Bruce Willis, and so was John Travolta. In a very odd way, this feels like Tarantino's first film. It's almost like, you know, when an artist puts out their first album. These are things that someone's been working on for a long time. This one feels like it had so much in it. Interesting things that I love about this movie, you know, when I was younger, we always talked about what was in the case. And when I think I was in high school, and we used to say that it was Marcellus Wallace's soul. I always thought that was interesting. And I've heard other theories throughout the years of what's in the case. I didn't think about this when I was younger. Travolta talks about having his Malibu in storage for a long time. He has it out one day, and somebody keys his car. And if you kind of go through the chronology of how the events are set up, he had just spoken with Bruce Willis, like presumably earlier that day. And he had that little exchange at the bar with Bruce Willis where he calls him Punchy and Palooka, basically making fun of him for being a fighter that's going to take a fall. It's a theory that Bruce Willis, or Butch, then leaves the bar and goes to the parking lot and keys Travolta's car, which would be amazing. I mentioned previously that we had a taste of what Tarantino wanted to do later on with the Michael Madsen character. His character's last name in Reservoir Dogs is Vega. So is Vincent's in this movie. The idea was going to be that they're brothers. Tarantino had talked about doing a film that would be a prequel to Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. Never came to light, and they're kind of both way too old to do it now. Just love Pulp Fiction so much. I was very young when I saw it, and maybe that's what's wrong with me today. Let's check Facebook. Going back to the Reservoir Dogs post earlier, Adam joins in and says, Reservoir Dogs taught me that Madonna's True Blue is about a sensitive girl who meets a nice guy. Sadie says, dick, 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 dick. How many dicks is that? A lot. Thanks, guys, for that. Going forward to the Pulp Fiction post, seeing what people thought about that. Glenn says, my favorite Tarantino flick. Travolta and Jackson are perfect as partners. In my opinion, this is Uma's best role besides The Bride. Enjoy the flick with a tasty beverage and Royale with cheese. It's funny because I was thinking about how Pulp Fiction, people talk about it's all these little stories that interconnect, but in my opinion, it's two stories that connect. And it's almost like a pairing of like a perfect burger and a perfect beer. And not just a perfect beer and not just a perfect burger, but a really good burger and a really good beer that are perfect for each other. They both make each other this heightened movie that we've all come to know. If you had double up on the one story or the other, it wouldn't have been as special, that's for sure. Shane says, deserves all the praise it gets, if only because it brought us the confused Travolta meme. I didn't know what that was until just a little while ago. My roommate just told me about that, so I've got to look a bunch of those up. Sadie says, I actually skip most of the Uma stuff until she snorts heroin. I find her quite dull. I always yell at her, though, Uma, that's not coke. Don't snort that. Thanks for the comments, guys. I accidentally liked my own post. I'm going to unlike that. Now that the fun has been had with Pulp Fiction, we have to move on to a movie that sometimes is my favorite. You know, most people, they say Pulp Fiction's their favorite. I go between Death Proof and Jackie Brown, just depending on my mood. And so I'm pretty excited to be watching Jackie Brown. Okay, so Jackie Brown. Yeah, I still, you know, go back and forth between which one's my favorite. Jackie Brown is just a great movie to kick back, relax. It's almost like a lazy Sunday kind of movie. You know, something you catch when it's on TV, and, you know, it doesn't move as fast-paced as some things. It certainly doesn't have as many weird or as many over-the-top things. Some things are kind of heightened, but, you know, by and large, I think the biggest thing, you know, with that movie, the acting, the way it looks fantastic, and the actual story. Now, it was based on Rum Punch, I believe was the name of the book it was based on. So not an original Tarantino, but he did, you know, obviously the treatment for it, and then he directed it, obviously. And it's just a lot of fun. Another big, huge cast of people. You know, I think the big surprise one for this one is like Michael Keaton. Almost every one of his movies, there's one person that pops up, and you're like, that's interesting that person's in there. It's almost like a 70s crime flick, but made in the 90s. Yeah, it's a good comparison. All right, let's see what's going on Facebook. Also, I stopped for a moment and grabbed a shower. I was getting a little sleepy. I made sure to put on another black shirt because the word of today is continuity. Okay, so going back to the Pulp Fiction post, Dave post, so many quotable lines from this film, one of my favorites. Pulp Fiction, I think that is, you know, one of the reasons why it is so popular. It is insanely quotable. Getting down to the Jackie Brown post, Sadie said her favorite line, "You shouldn't smoke that stuff. It'll rob you of your ambition." None of my ambition is to get high and watch TV. I actually was like looking at the phone right when that happened. She posted it like minutes after I was watching it. It was fantastic. So I commented back saying that line just happened. And then I followed with, see, I get high at night after I finish my stuff. Glenn says, definitely know a lot about that. Look here, Lewis, I gotta run out for a little while, so if you like getting high so much, why don't you hang out here with Mel and watch a little TV? I like that that's what it stays on people's mind, and I guess it is for me too. The thing that really I think about every time is towards the end, Jackie's sitting there talking to Michael Keaton. She's got this cigarette in her hand, and the ashes on the end of that cigarette are as long as I don't know if that was like a prop, but I know that when people smoke and the ash gets a little too long, I get nervous. And she's in that new suit, and she's just sitting there. She's so intense. Meanwhile, the ash is crazy, and I'm like, go to the ashtray. Just put it down. Going forward, I kind of mix things up a little bit in the order, kind of for a reason. I'm going to kind of bundle some things together for the next little while. Four Rooms really should have come after Jackie Brown. I'm only going to watch a quarter of it. So I'm going to watch Quentin Tarantino's quarter of Four Rooms, and then I'm going to go right into From Dusk Till Dawn. Hope you're enjoying. Okay, that was an interesting pairing to go from one thing straight into the other that have borderline nothing to do with each other. If I had time, you know, if I was doing this over the course of a few days, I probably would have watched all of Four Rooms. I don't care for the other rooms as much as I do for the last one. Basically, if you don't know what Four Rooms it's a movie, so it's is. Miramax decided to showcase 4 hotshot directors. And so I don't remember who the other two are. Then there's Robert Rodriguez, who does the next to last room, and then Quentin Tarantino, who does the very last room. Basically, the movie's tied together with Tim Roth being the bellhop, and he is there by himself at this hotel one night having to deal with all these crazy occupants of the hotel. Tarantino's is, in my opinion, a very standout one. I mean, Rodriguez, his room stands out very much as well. Tarantino's for a very different reason. It's very much, you know, dialogue driven and instead of actions driven. It's also, you know, based off of an old Alfred Hitchcock joint. And then From Dusk Till Dawn. Wow. I have really dug From Dusk Till Dawn for a long, long time. Ever since I was in high school. It's, you know, the screenplay was done by Quentin, and then Robert Rodriguez directed it. You can hear Tarantino's words coming out, especially with George Clooney, with his character. So many quotable things come out of George Clooney. It's a really interesting flick about 2 psychopaths that turns into a vampire monster movie. It definitely represents a turn, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Again, I'm watching on my DVD that I've had forever. It's a 2-disc, once again. First disc that's in here says disc 2. So I'm going to flip over, and I'm going to go over to disc 1. In Sharpie, and in my own handwriting, it says not movie. And so I'm looking at it thinking, was this a prank that I'm playing on myself from the past? And I thought, you know what? Let's just trust myself, almost like Memento or something. And I popped in disc 2, and yeah, disc 2 is the movie. If you have the Dimension Collector series, disc 1 is just the special features. So let's check out, see what's going on Facebook. Going back to the Jackie Brown post, asking people about that. Pete for Leamington Spa writing in again. Bridget Fonda in a swimsuit / beachwear is a highlight. Sadie says her plus De Niro equals ick. He says De Niro is nasty. Hang on, I gotta read the rest of this. He says De Niro is nasty as shit in that film, and Sadie agrees. Sadie says, love, love, love the opening sequence. Also, Michael Keaton and his crossover role from Out of Sight. What? I didn't know that. I think I watched Out of Sight when I was in high school. Super cool they made that happen. I've got to ask her about that. Pete says, film for me is about Robert Forster, so smooth, and Sadie says, tote. All right, so now I posted that I, was about to watched the last of Four Rooms and From Dusk Till Dawn. Glenn says, Four Rooms is a trip, but you can't go wrong with Cheech Marin and Danny Trejo. Favorite quote, the world's my oyster, except for the fact that I just rammed a wooden stake in my brother's heart because he turned into a vampire. Even though I don't believe in vampires, aside from that unfortunate business, everything's hunky-dory. Sadie asks, is his room the one with the finger? Also, Tim Roth is the fucking coolest. He's fucking Beretta, man. And Josh says, yes, it's the finger one. Sadie says, thanks. And he says, you can tell it's still pretty early in Tarantino's career because they only use the N-word once. Sadie said, Nate? Nate said, that's the one. Sadie says, just wait till Django. It's all Nate this and Nate that. Good job, guys. I love it. Josh continues, I feel like not having the build-up from the rest of the rooms will hurt Tarantino's room, but it's fantastic nonetheless. Shane says, FDTD is great. Got it. I especially like how it gets fairly far into a movie about these two criminal brothers, and then BAM! It becomes a vampire exploitation movie with no warning. Pete says Selma Hayek and the snake, ... Bill! Mr. Bill, the guy that I talked about earlier, he says, my good friend Toby has been trying to get me to show Four Rooms lately. And I'm trying to find another movie to show with it. Any ideas? Bill shows movies at a thing called Movies with Bill. So the podcast moved into an actual live thing where he plays movies at a bar outside on the patio. And they have drink specials and trivia. And it's loads of fun. Sadie suggested New York Stories. I'm going to say, well, don't do like I did and go for Dusk Till Dawn right after. It doesn't settle well. Thank you so much, guys, for all the comments and everything. And I hope you keep them going. For the next movie, I actually have part of a costume. And it's my Kill Bill socks I love so much that Alex hooked me up with. I gotta wear them to keep my tootsies warm while I'm watching. I'm also gonna join those two together. I'm gonna watch them back to back, so we'll do, one set of talking about, because it was intended to be one film, so it'd be kind of nice to watch it all together as one film. So, see you in a moment. Okay, so it is 15 till midnight. I've been at this for about 16 hours or so, and I just finished both Kill Bill movies. I think I've changed my mind. I don't know if it's the extended Tarantino viewing, but I always thought, okay, he wrote this big long script, the execs wanting to split it up, let the artist be the artist, let the tiger's tiger. Having watched them together again, they should be two separate films. And that's just my opinion. I know there's a lot of people that are going to be like, no, they need to be one film because you wrote it as... No, those are clearly two different movies. The excessive kung fu element at the volume 1, and then volume 2 having more of a spaghetti western kind of feel to it. Maybe his directing style differed because he made it into two, but they look like two different movies. They have a different feel, both of them do. And especially with the soundtrack. The first one's a little heavier with the RZA. The second one is a little heavier with Morricone. Giving it more the spaghetti western kind of thing. It does feel like a completely different movie, like a sequel you had to wait for a couple of years for, which is what it was. And if I had to pick one over the other, I gotta go volume 2. Still going strong, still getting some support on Facebook, so let's see what the last few things everybody said was. We got updates on the Kill Bill posting. Other than likes, which a lot of people have liked a lot of the other posts as well. Megan says, those are my fave. I'm on edge waiting for another one. Yeah, I actually read that on IMDb they have the third one slated. I don't know if I want that or not. I mean, I would watch it. Glenn says he agrees with what Megan said. It should have been back to back. Daryl Hannah's whistle always gets stuck in my head. David Carradine was great as Bill. Absolutely. That really does carry a heavy weight in the second one, is how much, Carradine's delivering. It really does make that movie. Shane says, Kill Bill 1 was my first Tarantino movie. When it ended, I was pissed. I couldn't watch the sequel immediately. But does she know her child still lives? And Nick CR, I thought the big fight scene at the House of Blue Leaves went on for too long. Maybe that's because I drank a huge pop at the beginning and was in some distress by the time the fight scene rolled around. Of course, you have the luxury of a pause button, but take it easy on the pops anyways. And actually, I'm out of soda that has caffeine. I have one energy drink left. I'm saving that for reserve. Thanks everybody for the comments. So sit rep. I'm kind of tired, but I'm not like, I don't want to go to bed right now. and I've still got almost halfway more to go. Coming up next, I'm going to combine again, and I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to watch Tarantino's scene in Sin City. I'm going to then watch Grindhouse, which is Planet Terror, and Death Proof. I said in the last episode that Kill Bill signals kind of a change or a turn. I feel like Kill Bill was kind of a promise from Quentin. I think it was kind of like, okay, so you saw the crazy stuff that I did back in the 90s. I'm just getting started. It's out of this world, and there really is, I feel like, an Old Testament and a New Testament of Tarantino. And I feel like Kill Bill is kind of somewhere in the middle. You know, it does have its roots in the Old Testament, but it's very, very much New Testament Tarantino. And that's what we're all the way into now, is New Testament Tarantino, until I am done. So, see you shortly. Okay. Still rolling right along. Just got done watching Tarantino's scene in Sin City. I went right into Grindhouse. It's kind of nice. Sin City and then going into Planet Terror was kind of a nice little palate cleanser with the scene in Sin City. It's based off of the comics. And Sin City is just a phenomenal movie. And then brought in Tarantino to do one scene. And if you don't know what scene it is, it's the craziest of all the scenes in the movie. Benicio del Toro is dead at this point, and his head's almost decapitated. Clive Owen needs to make this body go away because he's a cop. So they have to, get rid of a body. Cop is about to pull him over, and Clive Owen is like losing his mind and starts thinking that dead Benicio del Toro is talking to him. For a movie that's selective color, that scene has the most color in it of the rest of the movie, and it does kind of stand out in a way. And then right into Planet Terror. That movie is so funny. It is hilarious. It looks amazing. They did not miss a single scene or a single shot where everything is perfection to be exactly what it's supposed to be. I remember when Grindhouse came out, it was kind of an interesting time because it was the first time in my life where I lived somewhere and had the internet and understood how to use it. So I could look up trailers, I could look up, stuff talking about the movie, what was it about, I could find out this information. So I was very excited to see it and got to watch it in a theater. I had never seen a double feature in a theater before. They have all the fake trailers in between and before the movie. And then right back into Tarantino territory with Death Proof. I said earlier that I go between Jackie Brown and Death Proof as my favorite movie. Death Proof is my favorite Tarantino film. It just is. The music is absolutely phenomenal. Everybody really brings their A game with the acting, and it just really seems like they had a fun time while they were making it. And it's cool. And it's got chicks that kick ass, which is exactly what I love in movies. Zoe Bell, to my knowledge, her first, feature role. Zoe Bell is the New Zealander in the second half of Death Proof. And, her character is a stunt woman who came from New Zealand to America to be a stunt woman, which is what happened with Zoe. Zoe was a stunt woman for Xena the Warrior Princess. And after that show ended, she didn't have a lot of other work to do in that field, so she came to get work in Hollywood. She became Uma Thurman's stunt woman for Kill Bill. And, her physicality is great, and she's just so adorable, like the way that she acts. Plus the cool cars. I could go on about Death Proof all day long. It is my favorite. I don't know why I even question it. So let's see what other people thought about those. Going back to the Kill Bill post just a little bit, Sadie also said love, all the love, swords, Carradine, pussy wagon. The first time I saw it, I was hungover beyond all reason. Laid on the floor, fighting the urge to sleep. Had to make it through. I did. Oh, and the fucking guy who does Battle for Honor and Humanity is awesome. He does a killer version of Immigrant Song. And she posted a link too, so if you guys are keeping up with all these, definitely go check that out. For the post for Sin City, Planet Terror, and Death Proof, my boy Brandon says, watch the lap dance scene twice, once for me. When I go back upstairs, I'll watch it again. Sadie says, don't you only have to watch Death Proof, or as I call it, Reservoir Dogs with girls? I don't think that's fair. Reservoir Dogs is full of just awful people. Like, there's not one person. The only person that I kind of root for in Reservoir Dogs is the cop that loses an ear. But at the end of the day, I kind of don't root for him either. Whereas I root for most of the girls in Death Proof. Maybe a couple of them I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not interested. The other ones I'm like, yes, this is what I need more of. Sadie goes on to say, oh, but Rose McGowan, damn, girl. So yeah, Planet Terror 2. But so gross that movie is. Don't be eating like steak or chili or Jello. Okay, just to be safe, don't eat anything. I was gonna eat earlier while I was watching From Dusk Till Dawn, and I was like, you know what? I'll wait. Thanks everybody for the comments. We're going into the wee hours of the morning, so I don't know how many more comments I'll get for the rest of this. I'm also getting into the purely period films of Tarantino. We've got the remainder 3. The next one up is Inglourious Basterds. Alright, talk to you later. Okay, it's starting to get a little tougher now. Just finished Inglourious Basterds. Gotta say that might be my second favorite Tarantino film. Super great, super funny, you know, it is the beginning of his period pieces. And just, you know, way funnier than anyone would think it would be, especially for a World War II film. You know, this movie kind of has a special place in my heart. I have a friend that... I don't know if he would be okay with me talking about this in too much detail. So we'll just say that I had a friend that his brother passed away. And, you know, there was some time after that where, you know, obviously he was still grieving. And me and this friend, we love Tarantino films. And we kind of were really, really looking forward to this movie coming out. It came out a couple of months after his brother passed away. And I'd been there and, you know, messaged him from time to time and checked in on him and stuff. The movie came out and I hit him up and I said, hey, you know, I completely understand if you don't want to go watch it. You know, if you want to get out of the house and do something, man, we could go hit up this movie, check it out. And he was actually like, yes, I need to do something. I do need to get out of this house, and I would like to do something fun. And then we totally dug it. We totally loved the movie. All right, let's check Facebook and see what's going on there. Okay, so nothing new on Facebook for the previous posts. Like I said, you know, it's I posted it about 3-something. It's now 6:30 in the morning. But Pete says, keep going, Trentster. I like how this is a fantasy World War II film. Brad Pitt is comically excellent. I completely agree. And Glenn says, this rounds out my top 3 Tarantino films. Eli Roth was great in this. Yes, absolutely. Christoph Waltz is great. Favorite quote? Probably heard we ain't in the prisoner taking business. We in the killing Nazi business. And cousin, business is a booming. That is one of the best lines. I don't know, we stayed up so far that people actually are probably getting up and getting ready to go to work now. So I'll put it out for the next film coming up now, which is Django. The sun's up again. I've been watching Tarantino flicks for 25 hours. Just finished Django Unchained. Good flick. You know, it's, in my opinion, it's one of his most violent. But I feel like it was followed up, you know, so closely with Hateful Eight that it didn't get time to kind of stand on its own. I don't think that takes anything away from it, but it is a very powerful movie in that it's not one of these movies where they're like trying to, you know, hide or play down, you know, one of the biggest atrocities in America. Instead, he is, you know, showing gritty and awful aspects of it, yet he's still able to do what he does, and that is, you know, whip in some humor that's kind of making fun of a person in certain situations. Django's definitely one that I enjoy. It's not at the top of my list, but I will say on this viewing, the one thing that I really noticed that does make Django stand out from Quentin's other movies is Jamie Foxx. I think Jamie Foxx makes that movie something special. His character doesn't feel like a Tarantino character. He's not saying these long dialogues. He's not making really ridiculous statements. Jamie Foxx plays Django just so perfectly. I mean, this is a seriously serious badass of a dude. Just stoic, and, you know, he has moments of humor, but they're very, very small, and they're few and far between. We've seen other characters in his other movies be badasses, but not at the level Django is. Django is stone cold, and without hubris, and without fail. And I think it's interesting. I think it's a very interesting watch. Christoph Waltz, once again, knocking it out of the park. And then, you know, we get thrown in our little surprise people. Jonah Hill. We had the OG Sonny Crockett pop up in there. Leonardo DiCaprio. It was so out of left field for him to be in that and playing this character, and just the worst of the worst characters. He just plays the hell out of it. Django's a pretty cool flick, but let's see what everybody had to say on Facebook. Going back to the Inglourious Basterds post, Nick CR wrote, I was hoping I'd be up in time to comment on this one. I love this movie. I love the Mike Myers scene Every British-made war movie has a scene with a general or senior officer pointing at a big map with a stick and saying, "The enemy is here, 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 and here." So, I see what Tarantino did there. Christoph Waltz, what can you say except brilliant? Most creepy line, though, après la crème. So many lines are memorable, but I'll pick... I like smoking, drinking, and ordering at restaurants, which is pretty cool. It's a good line. Melanie Laurent still hasn't responded to my marriage proposal. The only thing that bugged me was Michael Fassbender leaving the ribbons hanging out of the back of his beret. Oh. If I had been awake, I would have watched it along with you. Gorlami? Gorlami? Gorlami. Shane also said, love this one. First time I saw it, I didn't realize it was going to deviate from history at the end. I kept waiting to see how Hitler was going to inevitably escape. I was very pleasantly surprised. And Shane also commented on the Django Unchained post. He said, another great appearance by Christoph Waltz, playing a completely different character than in Inglourious Bastard. Also, you get Samuel L. Jackson basically playing Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks. Good reference there, Shane. Now, we're coming to an end. I say coming to an end like it's about to stop, but I'm about to now watch the longest Tarantino film, and then I can record, and then I can go to sleep. And so now we're going to watch Hateful Eight. Saving Hateful Eight for the last for a full-blown Tarantino marathon. Not the smartest of things. The movie does move, a little bit slower. It's a different kind of monster. It's a different kind of Tarantino film. So maybe, push that one a little further ahead if you're doing a marathon, and save things like Death Proof for later on, and Kill Bill, because those are going to be, a little more exciting and a lot more happening. Not to say that nothing happens in it, not to say that it's boring or anything like that. It's just, it is very different. It almost has like a creepy quality to it, because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like a thriller, like a suspense thriller. It's like a whodunit, and with the music, like the scoring they use in it, and just the way that it looks, it definitely leads toward it being eerie the whole time. But it is very much a Tarantino film. You hear his dialogue coming through everyone in it. And another ensemble cast of just amazing people. And even Channing Tatum got in on it. Spoiler alert. This was a fun experiment. I've had a good time with it. So before we go, let's check Facebook. Going back to the Inglourious Bastards post, Aaron says, I love the bar scene where they are all playing cards or whatever. Then the cool shooting. Sadie then says, Trent knows all too well how I feel about Mr. Waltz. So good, so creepy. They should remake Raiders of the Lost Ark just so he could play the icky Nazi guy. Going to the Django post. Sadie said, obviously my boyfriend again. Damn, did most of the movie after breaking, his tailbone? That's why he spends a lot of time in the movie sitting. You also never see him go up or down stairs. He'll start up, but the next shot he's at the top already. Highly recommended the movie Carnage for the superfan. And his Fresh Air interview. I think Terry Gross was so in love with him. Okay. And she says, however, I could have done without the whole bit with Tarantino. It felt tacked on and unnecessary. It was odd. I guess we needed him to get the explosives that way. Shane says he doesn't remember Tarantino being in Django. Refresh my memory. Sadie is saying, she says, see, my point exactly. It was like 20 minutes before the end. I don't remember what happens. And even I was kind of like, well... So maybe she has a point. Sadie says, and then there's DiCaprio, wicked performance. That dude can play evil. Definitely so. And finally, for the Hateful Eight post, oh my god, you haven't even slept at all, your machine. Shane says, what do you mean by banana sandwich movie? Because bananas are disgusting and should be eradicated. Whereas this movie is beautiful, funny, and surprising. Sadie says, can't believe I haven't seen it yet. The fuck is wrong with me? So that's it. That was a fun little experiment. Thank you all for sticking it out with me. Thanks for the comments. And anybody that watched this, thanks for the views. And so now, Mary Todd is calling. So I guess it's time for bed.